big spoilers ahead. We're going to ruin the movie if you haven't seen it. We're going to ruin all of Phase 4 movies if you haven't seen it. All of the series if you haven't seen it. We're going to ruin what potentially could happen with Phase 5 because we're going to give our bold predictions and everything. So if you don't want your life when it comes to Marvel ruined... Welcome to Was It Good, the podcast that reviews movies and TV shows, where we answer the big question, was it good? Today we're looking at Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the movie that wraps up Marvel's Phase 4. I'm Ravi, and as always, I'm joined by my two brothers,
Arjuna
and Krishna. Welcome to my home.
And welcome to his home. And he says that because we're actually live. We're doing this podcast live in Krishna's mansion.
Wow.
I'll say mansion. That way they don't know what to look up and,
I don't have my
you.
my address isn't posted anywhere. So.
I don't think your address is on the walls, hopefully.
Yeah.
Address goes here.
No! Don't do
Two-thirds. This is where you send all the fan mail and everything terrible to.
Oh, no.
Whoops.
Are you guys adjusted to the altitude?
No, it sucks here.
Really?
I really don't like where you live.
Wow.
I'm going to throw that out there on this podcast.
We've been trying to convince you to move back to LA since before you left.
There's a reason.
Convenience?
Yeah, actually.
Rent?
Partially, yeah. Yeah, actually, I mean, okay. Before we get into, like, Wakanda Forever.
Oh.
You know, Krishna is like, oh, it's, his birthday is coming up.
That's why you guys are
happy
here?
35th birthday.
Don't tell them how old I am. Yeah.
Happy
Right.
45th birthday.
70th birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys
And
coming out.
Arjuna was like, hey, was it Arjuna? Somebody said, like, hey, let's do a podcast. And then I said, oh, we should do it live because
Yeah, that was a great idea.
chaos.
Yeah.
And Black Panther feels like Black Panther, like Wakanda Forever, felt like a really good movie to do live, do in person. Because, fun fact, our second podcast ever for Was It Good was Black Panther.
238 podcasts.
Holy cow.
Was it 230? Yeah, 238. Yeah.
That's
Math is hard.
That's a lifetime ago.
It really was.
Well, the first Black Panther came out, I believe, in February of 2018.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Damn. Okay.
Who was president back then?
Don't.
Donald
don't,
Trump.
Don't.
He
ruin,
was just starting.
Don't ruin our stuff.
Actually, no, he was halfway through. I'm really bad at math right now. Because it's 2018. He started in 2016-ish, whenever.
He's turning 2016?
Yeah, sure. Sure. He's turning 2016.
Oh, boy.
He's turning 2016. But I think
wow.
it's fitting that we are doing, we're doing this movie in person live. I think it's a good
Does
one.
that mean this is our second to last podcast?
I don't know.
And our last podcast should be
Is
Star
Andor?
Trek.
Oh,
Do you guys remember
don't do
our
Star
first
Trek.
podcast?
I do.
That's
I
why
actually
I said
remember it
Star
very
Trek.
well. I remember it better than Black
Discovery.
Panther.
Discovery.
My answer was a no.
We all
after
said-
watching one episode.
We all said no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you know
and
what?
yet you kept watching. That's fascinating.
I stopped after
You know what's
season two.
interesting?
Nice.
You say you kept watching because it relates to this movie.
Wow. Okay.
I'll start with that take. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying that kind of in a positive /
an observation.
No, more like with this movie with Wakanda Forever, I was super nervous going into it.
Yes.
For one simple reason. I don't like getting tearful and emotional in front of people,
Yeah.
especially in a public place like a theater.
Yeah.
And going into this movie, I knew that I was going to feel something. And first of all, I want to say, fuck you, Marvel,
Oh, wow.
for making me feel anything. That is really mean and cruel, and I hate that. But I mean that sarcastically. I'm glad that I did. And going into this film, I was definitely kind of like nervous and on my seat because like, what gut punch are they going to throw at me to make me feel something? Turns out they were like, oh, let's just give him 2.5 hours of emotion.
Well, yeah. I mean, we have to start with the whole Chadwick thing,
Right.
Chadwick Boseman unfortunately passed away, and we've known, since the first poster and trailer of this movie dropped that he was not going to be in this movie. That this movie was very much going to deal with his untimely passing and then the passing of the character, which they confirmed, pretty early on in the process of this movie. So that was present throughout the whole movie, like you just said, Ravi, in terms of they didn't shy away from it. They didn't try and address it quickly and then move on. It was, almost it was a central theme in the movie. The movie is about grief, and it's about dealing with those who have passed and going through that entire process. And that is the movie in so many ways. Yes, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about in terms of some of the subplots and everything else within the movie. But at the heart of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, it is dealing with the loss of this actor who went way too soon, and we lost a beloved character as well from it.
Yeah, you said it right after the movie, and I didn't even think about this going in, so I was nervous as well, but I didn't really think about why. And then I think you voiced it right after. You're like, this movie had a huge checklist of things it needed to hit and things to do, and if you look at the checklist, it was never going to be a perfect movie.
No,
and I think that's a great way to sum it up. It has to deal with rebooting the character. You know, even if you just look at the story, right? You have to say farewell to a character. You have to create an origin story for a new character.
And say farewell, not just to a character, to a man, right?
Yeah.
To a man who meant so much to the movie, to everything that it was about. It was impossible to do, and they somehow still did it.
Yeah. So I mean, you hit the nail on the head before we even got to the opening credits, which pin drop. It was as still as I've ever seen a movie theater.
Yeah, I was gonna say
when those opening the Marvel which was just Chadwick.
This was the weirdest. We're in Colorado, Denver, seeing this movie, so it's not like where I usually see films in LA where Friday midday showings or whatever are packed usually. This was a fairly empty theater, but even so, even those somewhat half-packed theaters or whatever, you still have people jumping up and down, cheering, clapping, whatever. There was none of that. The entire theater was like, we're gonna kind of go through this emotional roller coaster. We're gonna be everyone in that theater was super respectful for what we were going through and seeing and everything. And I think that was. It's weird because when you think of a Marvel movie, you think of oh yeah, there's the guy, they did the thing, there's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. You think that a lot, not like this movie. And it's interesting because I think we talked about this a lot where, Endgame came out, it went through an emotional gut punch where, thank goodness Robert Downey Jr., from what I know, is in good health and he's still, he's here with us. His character of Iron Man, we said goodbye to that character. Still an emotional gut punch, but obviously not the same to what we saw here with Black Panther. But even that movie, you're jumping up and down and everything, and that movie was very much 10 years of the same kind of formula. And then this movie comes out that's dealing with real world loss. And even though there were definitely some similar elements of the big battle and the ups and downs or whatever,
the lighthearted quips,
the lighthearted quips. I can't even say this, but I'm so thankful the lighthearted quips were there because you needed the goddamn emotional break. Otherwise, it was
thank God for M'Baku.
Yes,
I mean without him, the movie would have been too.
Winston Duke knew, very early on. He was here for comic relief.
Yeah.
That was,
and he embraced
that was
it.
his role for Wakanda Forever.
Yep.
He embraced it fully.
Thank God for that.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing performance by him.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The fact is as well, it's you're in a totally different state.
Yeah.
Totally different group of people. And it was you're absolutely right. You knew it was going to be somber.
Yeah.
But good Lord.
Yeah,
that first 10 minutes.
Again, big spoilers here, right? The movie also changed the formula to a degree where a lot of Marvel films end and they have the mid end credit scene and then the final or end credits, secret scene or whatever. And this ended with just a mid credit end scene or whatever. And instead of it being something where it's I'm Nick Fury and let's start the Avengers. It was very much more perfect for this movie where instead of being hey, we're going to tell you what the next phase of the story is or whatever, it was a much better kind of situation where they essentially allowed the character of T'Challa in a way, or the name of T'Challa, to live on through, T'Challa having a son now.
Right.
which I think
What
is
a bombshell.
great. It was a big bombshell.
That was great.
But did anyone else think, like, I thought the character, the child was going to be called Chadwick. I don't know why I thought that.
Oh,
That never. No.
I don't know why. That was just me. That's
Two
just a me
on the
thing.
nose. Yeah,
That's
maybe.
just a me thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think how they did it was, again, like a great way to, like, wrap everything up. I mean, this movie being the close to Phase 4, I think, is the perfect, like, it makes sense to close that out with this.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You know, obviously Ryan Coogler has been doing a lot of press for the movie, and there was one interview he did where he talked about Black Panther 2 was always going to deal with grief. Mm-hmm. The original script had dealt with T'Challa dealing with the grief of losing 5 years of his life.
Right.
During the events between Infinity War and Endgame, where the blip happened. And so, like, very much so, this movie was going to deal with a lot of the aftermath of that. And obviously, the movie is completely reworked to deal with grief in a very different, in a very emotional way. But that's just kind of, you know, it's, you know, some of the, I think the skeleton of that first script is still obviously in here, and some of the idea of what the movie was going to be about. You know, Namor was always envisioned to be the antagonist of this movie. You know, and we'll obviously get into Namor and that performance and the entirety of that and everything. But yeah, you know, the movie was, you know, it really worked for me.
I'm glad it worked for you. Just you, Adrian.
Just me.
Just you, specifically. Obviously, being that this is an emotional roller coaster of a film, I want to know how you would sum it up in a one-word impression. And I am going to put a block on this. You can't use the word emotional or emotion or heavy feelings. Can't do that.
Yeah.
Be creative. Come up with something unique. And one of you go, because I have nothing yet.
I got one.
Go ahead.
I think I've already used it. It's gonna be pin drop.
Pin drop?
Pin drop.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Because it was just like, and that's something I'm gonna remember about this movie the most is just how quiet it was. You know, for that intro scene when you learn that this is how they're going to deal with T'Challa's death and how Shuri's dealing with it, and you know, and then the and it's just that Marvel, you know, the Marvel intro card, right? And it's just Chadwick, and they don't have any music. It's just the images. I was like, ooh. It's the most emotional I think I felt in a movie in a very long time. Sure.
I'll say this. I've not felt this emotional about a film since Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, when Gandalf fell.
Ooh.
You know, when he says, like, fly, or not fly.
Return of the King as well.
Fly, is it Fly, You Fools?
Yeah.
Fly, you
Fly,
Fools.
you fools.
Yeah, I've not felt that way about a film since then. Like, this will probably stick with me for life because of that opening and everything, which is just crazy.
Yeah, very powerful.
Pin drop.
Pin drop. Yeah,
Damn you, Christian.
It's not emotional.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm now.
But it makes you.
I'm
feel
scrambling.
emotion.
Yeah.
I'm scrambling. What could mine be?
Maybe it's scrambling. No.
Scrambled eggs.
No, those 2 words.
Yeah.
No, I'm asking. Can I have scrambled eggs?
Yeah, I've got eggs.
Sure. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. I've not had any eggs since
Since
I've
you've
been
come here, yeah,
I
yeah.
usually eat like 4. I don't
Great
know.
source of
We're
protein.
talking about my diet. Junior, your one-word impression.
I'm gonna go with Aftermath. So the reason I'm gonna go with Aftermath is we've seen over 20, close to 25 MCU Marvel movies, and a lot of them are very plot-driven. You know, action sequence, you know, stuff happening, and obviously stuff happens in this movie. But this is the first MCU movie that really takes its time and deals with something that is hard to deal with. You know, as we've talked about with the grief of losing a person, that is just impossible to ignore, and it's impossible to move past that. So, I commend Disney and Marvel and Ryan Coogler and everybody for putting the time and effort into that, and really just having a whole movie of aftermath, essentially, of here is this big significant effect, and here is all of the aftermath to this singular event, because everything stems from that. And I think this is a movie that did a great job doing that and making you feel stuff and taking its time and not feeling the pressure of we've got to do 25 other things. You know, they did do some other things, but it wasn't like the usual Marvel checklist of, you know, we got to set up 36 Disney Plus series and 4 sequels and, you know, 10 other Avengers movies.
Just to piggyback off that very last comment, I will say I am shocked we didn't get an after credit scene with Val's. What's the name of that team with like
the Thunderbolts.
The Thunderbolt. I'm shocked we didn't get like a Thunderbolts after credits.
But I'm glad. Again,
but you're right.
But it's a taste thing, right? In terms of that was the right place to end that movie.
100%.
To throw anything else on there would have felt superfluous and would have felt off with this movie.
It would have been the wrong tone for sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Damn it!
Aftermath
I don't
and
have
pin
a
drop.
good one. I really don't. I guess I will go with the easy one, which is
Don't say emotional.
water.
No. Water
Works on two ways.
Why would you say that?
It works on two ways. A lot of the movie took place in water and showcased water, and my eyes had water coming out of them. Water.
And here's a little bonus fact.
I drank some water.
Ravi was drinking water during the movie.
Oh my! Real quick. Our cousin Tashana is here with us. Shout out to her. She bought everybody bottles of water.
Woo.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you're watching a film and you're trying not to tear up, drink water. It somehow stops.
You can kind of
like just hide it, and like it works so. Like,
I did notice.
oh, I drank a shit ton of water.
Noticed during like the most emotional scenes of this movie. You opening your bottle of water.
Yep.
You
did.
myself.
Yeah. Everybody
No.
did.
I stayed very still during the emotional ones. I was like this.
I'm not gonna move.
If I
I'm
don't
not gonna
move,
I'm not
then
gonna
no
move.
one will know that I am tearing up.
Should we? I wonder.
No one
like
will know.
maybe this is getting way off topic here because like I'm sure people are more interested in terms of like the Easter eggs and general thoughts of the film. But do you feel like I'm not trying to be like oh my god society, but is it a thing like? I said to you guys, like, I felt nervous going into this because I didn't want to tear up in front of you guys and in front of people, like in a public place. Yeah. Like, do you feel the same way where you're like, you can't let your guard down in the film? Like, you have to be like, I'm fine, everything's good, I'm happy.
I think that's like it's a societal thing for like a lot of men in general, right?
Right.
Like, you're not supposed to like show emotions or cry, especially at a movie, right? Like, wow, you cried at a movie, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's like a little bit built into probably all of us. I would say.
100%.
I mean, I'm at fault for this. I've made not necessarily fun of Arjuna, but I will definitely like be a dickhead of a brother to him and be like, "Hey, Arjuna, you tearing up there?" And it's like, yeah. It's like I don't know. It's something I was thinking like going into because it definitely, like I said at the beginning, like you're sitting there and you're just waiting. You're waiting. Like what's gonna not trigger you, but like make you feel something. I don't know. Just an observation that I'm throwing out there.
Totally.
Yeah. Speaking of observations.
Observations.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
I could do this all day.
Really? Could you? Go back to the theater and watch it again then. Arjuna made a big observation in the form of a DVD chapter listing.
Oh boy.
You should explain to our live listeners and viewers what that is, in case they're new.
A DVD chapter listing.
Yeah,
was
what's a DVD?
Rudimentary way of breaking up a film.
Rudimentary.
It's kind of like episodes in the series, like episode 1, but instead they had chapters. It used to be that chapters meant something. I don't think chapters mean anything anymore unless it's an art film by Martin Scorsese or one of the other art farts.
Art farts.
But Arjuna, I guess is an art fart. So he came up with a DVD chapter listing.
He is an art fart
for this movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm an art fart.
No, I guess you're not.
I feel like to be an artist, you have to have
taste.
Talent and taste.
Wow.
Jeez. Humble much?
But as our Krishna here is
boy.
going to read this, I don't know what would be. No, actually, you know what? You're going to M'Baku said it.
Oh no.
Where he said that Namor has the strength of a Hulk. So you're going to read this.
What?
You're going to read this as if you're the Hulk.
This is a throwback to our She-Hulk episode pod, right?
Kind of.
Or maybe Miss
Hulk
Marvel, because
smash.
we also did a She-Hulk thing for that one, too.
We did as well, yeah.
Because the Hulk's been referenced a lot in a lot of MCU stuff recently.
Hulk is
He's a larger-than-life character.
He's like the only Avenger. Well, I mean, there's
Thor.
Hawkeye.
Thor.
But Thor's not on Earth all the time. He's kind of
He's actually very
vacationing.
rarely on Earth.
Right?
Yeah,
so, like, Bruce, obviously, Yeah.
I guess he's the most famous living Avenger.
Well, there's also Spider-Man, played by Paul Rudd.
Walking
around.
Oh yeah, that
For now.
Ant-Man
I have a lot of
trailer.
questions about Spider-Man being known to the public. You know, considering that the Earth's supposed to forget about Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You just blew my mind.
He's supposed to be Tom Parker.
No. The people forgot who Peter Parker was.
That's right. So Spider-Man still,
Not Spider-Man.
That's
yeah.
probably why people were like, "It's gotta be Paul Rudd." They're gonna reference or figure that out.
Anyway, Krisha's going to read Arjuna's DVD chapter
Oh,
listen for
no.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever,
I apologize in advance, everyone.
as the Hulk.
Here we go. The sun is dead. You don't mess with Wakanda. We're off a boat. Science, bitch. MIT, a safety college. This is not Hulk. I'm sorry. General Namor. Infiltrate the dealer. Find a supply. War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Good God. Auntie who? We're on a boat. Everyone lives, except all the nameless people. The future king. I forgot what Hulk sounds like. I was like, wait a minute. Also, and so Hulk doesn't form like complete sentences, so it's kind of hard
You
to.
could have done a loophole and just done Smart Hulk, so you could have just sounded like
yeah.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
I'm not smart. I damn it. You're
It's
right.
fine. I didn't realize that until halfway through. So.
Oh, I could have done Smart Hulk. That was the loophole. That's a good one.
I mean, it worked. I mean, I'm going to give Krishna's voice acting skills here a 4 out of 10.
It's a lot harder to do it live.
And I'm going
With a live audience.
I'm going to give Arjuna's actual chapter listing. He threw science bitch in there, so
Yeah.
you get like a 7.63 out of 10.
Is that your best one?
No,
That
you
is
gave me
your-
like an 8 last time.
Wow.
I've never have I?
You did. You gave
What's
me a pretty
wrong
high
with
score
me?
last time.
That is something's happened then.
Something's happened.
Maybe I've been replaced by a Skrull or something.
Any favorites for chapter listing?
Oh,
Science bitch.
I think my favorite is MIT Safety College because that's a huge insult to MIT.
Well, I mean, they said it was Wakanda, like common school
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah,
is how they
exactly.
described it.
But that makes sense though, because remember, Wakanda's technology is just so advanced in comparison to the real world. Speaking of like Wakanda, like the other thing I think I really enjoyed about this film is it was very much a geopolitical, like not thriller, but like geopolitical, like this is what's happening in the world, and
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that France was
Yeah. Yeah.
You think
attacking.
you think the French are a little bit, not thrilled with this movie?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like that's the butt of a lot of American-made movies, so maybe they're just used to it at this point.
Maybe.
Honestly, I wonder if Ryan Coogler and everyone took all of the UN countries, put them in a hat, and just pulled a name out.
And it just happened to be France.
That feels
Happen
like
to be France?
That feels like like a Disney note, though. No, like they knew that was gonna
But why would you
do
piss?
something to one of their markets.
But France has their Disneyland Paris. Like you don't want to piss that market off.
But maybe they're just like, this won't be as negatively viewed here versus
true.
like a different country,
Like
different
England
countries.
or
Yeah.
Germany or America.
Yeah, I'm sure. I bet there must have
They should
been
have
a lot
made
of
it.
thought process behind
They should have made it
this
Canada.
is the country.
They should have had Canada be the ones. No offense to Shauna.
Real quick, is Canada mentioned ever in any
Never.
MCU film
I don't
so
think.
far? Is anybody random
I'm
characters?
sure Canada must have been referenced. It's over 20 plus movies. There must have been one. Reference.
I'm sure it's a reference in Logan or X-Men. Because
What's
isn't
the
Wolverine?
MCU movies in particular?
I mean, isn't it kind of retroactively MCU now?
Well, we'll find out.
I mean, with Deadpool 3, both Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. The character of obviously Logan Wolverine is Canadian, so maybe there'll be a Canadian reference in Deadpool 3. And
Huge jacked man.
I mean, why would
huge Jack man.
Yeah, all these American superheroes being played by Canadians or British people.
That's right, Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman. He's British.
Yeah,
He ain't even American.
yeah.
He has
Bill,
the
he's
weirdest.
Bilbo Baggins.
He has the weirdest American accent ever.
Oh,
It's
I don't know. I
definitely
don't know
a
if it's the
little-
weirdest.
It's definitely a little like.
I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch has the weirdest American accent. To be honest,
Oh, it's Doctor Strange. Both of
little
them
bit.
have
Sounds like House.
kind of, yes. Hugh Laurie has a weird American
Hugh
accent
Laurie.
too.
That's
yeah.
a good. That's a great choice.
He's actually in a new HBO show, Avenue 5, where he's a fake captain of a
That's not
spaceship.
new.
Well, it's been out for 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's kind of new.
Yeah. Kind of new. It's new to me.
Yeah, there
new
you
to
go.
me.
There you go.
Who has the best American accent for non-American actors? Would you say?
Tom Holland. Because he's British
Yeah.
and he plays
That's not bad. Yeah, no,
a kid from Queens.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not terrible.
and it's it's never
I
pulled
guess
me out.
within the
of
MCU,
the-
probably
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Rico, before we get into each character and kind of what they did and does it work, does it not work, I do want to admit something to both of you, and I don't want you to get mad, throw your mics down, and walk out of this mansion that we're in currently.
The mansion.
The CGI wasn't that bad.
Why would we get mad?
I'm just saying it was really good.
It was 100% better than Black Panther 1.
It's probably the best CGI I've seen out of all the MCU 4 films.
Phase 4.
Yeah,
What'd I say?
I think you're all right.
MC4.
MC4.
Put it this way: all the underwater stuff,
All the underwater stuff
it
looked
was great.
ridiculously
the blue
good.
Skin,
It was
amazing.
It looked great.
Yeah.
Cinematography was top notch.
Really good.
That was the other thing I was kind of like, if the CGI was bad, we've talked about this. If the CGI is bad, it takes you out of the experience because the sense of disbelief is ruined. And this film CGI actually was good enough that I didn't notice anything that really stuck out too bad.
Do you have a favorite CGI part? Like, is a part where you're like, that actually looks incredible.
Okay, I don't want to sound like a weirdo, but like the design of Shuri's Black Panther suit I thought was top notch. And that is CGI. That's not a real suit. I thought that was top notch. The battle where you have how do you say their names? The
Talokan?
Namor's people.
Yes.
Namor's people attacking the Wakandans in the sea. That also, I would have thought that would have been really, really bad and or kind of ruin that sense of disbelief. But it worked out really, really well. Everything just kind of worked, which was nice. Nothing was Black Panther 1 where he's in Tokyo and it looked so shiny.
That was like video game-esque.
It was very, very bad.
It didn't look that bad to me. But maybe I'm in the minority there.
And I think it was actually somewhat practical effects. But when Shuri and how do you say it? The general
Okoye.
Okoye. When Shuri and Okoye are going to get Ironheart,
Riri Williams
thank you,
at MIT.
in MIT
Safety College.
in Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts,
Massachusetts.
where there's that action shot where they're all in their various vehicles. That looked really good too. Like that didn't feel forced. That just looked cool. It's like that whole sequence was great. But I also think part of that was practical as well, not fully CG, which is what you got in Black Panther 1, the first one, in Tokyo when he's running around jumping on cars and way too shiny.
Yeah, totally.
So you guys impressed? You guys happy with what I just said?
Sure.
I mean, I'm not going to throw my mic down and storm out of my own apartment.
Gotcha.
So yes, I'm very happy.
Oh, thank God.
I'm gonna say my favorite part of like the.
Oh, I wasn't saying this to hear your favorite. I don't care about your favorite parts.
I'm gonna say it anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, right when Namor is talking to his people, the first time he's on his throne with his headdress, I don't know, because it was like
When he comes
a lot
down
of the under
with the music,
yeah,
that part's pretty
and then he amplifies his voice. That whole part, I was like, I got chills. I was like, that was so well done. The whole thing with Namor and his people, I was just like, every time anything around that came on screen, I was just like, I couldn't look away. It was maybe my favorite part of the movie.
I mean, Namor really showed out.
Wow. Actually, we do have a question or a comment here while we're talking about Namor. Was Namor? This is from Low Life, friend of the pod. Was Namor cringe? I have to know. No, Namor was incredible, and you're watching this podcast, so you know there's going to be spoilers. He doesn't die, and so
He loses a foot wing.
he loses a foot wing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine because it seems
He's
like
a
part of-
mutant.
Yeah.
You see the bandage on
Yeah.
there? He
Yeah.
must have some type of healing factor, you would hope.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's got a big scar on his back, too.
Yeah, but Namor was the opposite of cringe. He was so good. Like I couldn't believe how good That performance
so
was.
Namor movie? Namor Disney Plus show?
I mean, I would absolutely tune in. Like, good lord,
Not a
it
Namor
was so
Disney Plus
good.
show, because we all know what happens to those budgets.
Yeah, it would look. It would.
I know. Then you would see your bad CGI. Then the wings
It
look,
would
you
just
know,
be
fake.
It would actually be Namor on land and just like living in like a town. 'Cause
Hey,
that's
so
the budget they
you
could
you
afford.
you undo all the, you know, so he can live out of water now.
He's fine.
Yeah, he's got like a family
Yeah.
on land.
Yep.
It's a sitcom.
Namor and family.
Oh my goodness.
Real
It's
quick,
ju-
speaking of Namor though, and like
Namor.
the idea of cringe before before we saw this movie, obviously press, there was obviously the premiere, a lot of influencers got to see the movie. Somebody on TikTok started this comparison between Shuri and Namor and Rey and
Kylo?
Kylo,
Oh boy.
saying, is it the same type of relationship? What are your thoughts
Man.
on something that doesn't matter?
I mean, we've seen it done so many times, right? Like the two characters who are antagonistic to each other, and they have common ground. They have common ground. They respect each other. They see each other's good sides. They see some of the bad sides. They have mutual respect. You're like, oh, this could be a great friendship, right? But then because of like the pressures of their people and family, you know, it forces them to take opposite sides. Sure. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it worked. It definitely helped like Shuri's, the characters, I think, arc in the movie. So yeah, it wasn't. It was better.
That part wasn't
for me.
cringe
For
to
me,
you.
it was better than Rey and Kylo for sure. Yeah.
I mean, anything's better.
Yeah, a lot of things were better than Rey and Kylo. So, yeah,
And that is our 15th reference to Star Wars.
that is
Star
our
Wars.
second reference, I think.
Meet our
Actually.
quota.
We met the quota.
We mentioned, yeah.
the
yeah,
mouse
yeah.
is happy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The mouse is happy.
Arjun, did you have a favorite part or no?
I mean, I really enjoyed a lot of this movie. So I don't know if I could pull one favorite part. I think just Queen Ramonda in general was just really cool, and Angela Bassett's like performance is really amazing throughout this whole movie, right? And the line that you hear in the trailer, you know, like, I am queen of the most powerful nation and I have no family, and like, you know it's coming, but it still just gives you like these insane chills and just this insane amount of like, holy shit, like you are an actress with like a capital A, and like this is a crazy amount of talent like that you have, right? And so like I wasn't, you know, we knew that Shuri was going to be a big part of this movie. We knew obviously there was Namor, you know, and obviously she plays a big part in Black Panther, but like it's an even different type of elevation within this movie. Like you could make an argument that she carries like the first hour of the movie in a lot of ways.
She's
she
in
does,
it
yeah.
a lot.
Like
yeah.
she's in it a lot. She's kind of like the main character, like the main character in many ways, and that makes like, you know, spoiler alert again for this movie, her death, you know, in the movie.
Wait,
again,
what?
So emotional.
Oh my goodness, what?
Right? And
Yeah.
and really like takes you aback because she is really is so powerful. So I just think like Queen Ramonda and Angela Bassett's performance of the movie was like just an amazing performance.
So I would
all
agree.
around.
So I would agree on the performance, but I also think it led into at least my biggest problem with the movie, which is pacing. It was a 2.5-hour movie, and it felt every minute of 2.5
It
hours.
felt like a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, and it was great. It was extremely entertaining. There are incredible moments, but I think a lot of trying to put Angela or Queen Ramonda's stuff in that first half really slowed it down. I wish you can not cut it, but like cut some of that stuff and keep some of the best, keep it more, I don't know, succinct. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not like the editor or the writer, so I don't know exactly how you would do that. But for me, it slowed it down quite a bit. And that was at least my biggest complaint with the movie, was that it felt long.
No, it definitely, like, you hit the nail on the head. The first hour of the movie is very much, whose story am I following? Not that I'm confused, but I'm following a lot of sub-stories, and I don't know who is the main thing. By the end of the movie, you realize, yes, this is Shuri's story. This is her becoming the new Black Panther, taking up that mantle. And I think once you've watched the whole movie and you know that, I'm curious about the second, third time that I watch this film, knowing that if it's going to stand out a bit more. And part of that is, like, I think how this movie was presented, how this movie was marketed. It was like when the first Black Panther came out, Chadwick Boseman is the Black Panther. He's your main lead guy, and then you have everybody else. This movie was, obviously for obvious reasons, tougher to just flat out say, this movie is, the story of Shuri going through everything.
It was also a bit of a, they intentionally marketed it as a mystery of like,
yes.
who is the next Black Panther?
Who is the next one? Yeah.
The first teaser it dropped is you see like you just see the claw.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second trailer you see the shot. Well, that's in the first trailer with the butt and the claw. And then the second one you see the Black Panther actually like descending from the ship.
Right.
So they never like outright just said in the
it,
trailer who it exactly was. So there was a bit of like the mystery box element of like who is the next Black Panther.
Did you guys enjoy that? Like trying to?
No.
It seemed pretty obvious
I think,
very quickly. It's
I
going
think
to be.
I think
Shuri,
that was
right?
more of a marketing thing than a movie thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like it didn't.
Totally.
That wasn't like a who is the next. Like that wasn't a central question within the movie. The addressing of the mantle not being there was addressed, but it wasn't like we need another Black Panther. It was just this mantle doesn't exist anymore because even before in Black Panther 1, Killmonger burned the plant, right? There was no next Black Panther after T'Challa.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So I think that I think Disney wanted to have that mystery because people like mysteries, but I don't think that was the movie's intention, and I don't think the movie suffered from that.
Do you think though, like Feige came out and before there was a trailer or promotional images or anything, Feige came out and said, we're not recasting the character of T'Challa.
Yep.
And there was not a huge backlash, like, anything crazy, but there was definitely a lot of like back and forth discussion happening everywhere. They seemed like half the people were like, this is a good choice. Half people were like, no, this is a bad choice. And here's my reason why. And here's my reason why. Do you think, I would imagine that was a factor also in like leading into the mystery box, as opposed to just flat out saying, no, guys, the Black Panther is now going to be Shuri in, Wakanda Forever. We hear you, but no. Like, I guess they did it more as a way to kind of appease everybody, if you will.
I don't know if they did it to appease everyone, because you're right. It seems like they were in a slight pickle. Because there's good arguments to be made on both sides, recasting or retiring that character because you have to. So, I think Disney played it the only way they could.
Right. You could not do it immediately.
You couldn't do it immediately because you want to respect that a real person actually died, and that's bigger than any character.
In a tragic and unfortunate way. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Devastating way. So I think it was smart on their part. It was smart on their part not to be like immediately name the next Black Panther. And like Arjuna said, like 75% of the movie is dealing with the loss of the last Black Panther. And then also, you're right. It wasn't like we needed Black Panther. It was like, here are the repercussions of not having a Black Panther. Mm-hmm. International pressure, the appearance of Namor and his people, and what that means. And then, Wakanda itself being like, well, what do we do? Yeah. We ourselves don't feel as united or as strong
without our
protector.
Our protector, right?
Yeah, and I thought that was great. You're right. That was what the movie was from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And the through line.
They didn't try to sidestep that in any way, right? They took that head on.
Leaned all the way in.
Yep.
Yeah. I was saying this to Christian before he started. Disney, is a massive media conglomerate. They're making so much content everywhere. Unfortunately, these tragedies are going to happen where, actors and actresses, unfortunately, things happen, right? And it's interesting, another big one that happened a couple of years ago with Episode 9 and with Carrie Fisher and how that all played out. And, a lot of people kind of argue, and I still agree with them, that, it wasn't handled the best way. Right. This does finally feel like this was the best way to handle it, tie it into a story, and
don't shy away.
Don't shy away from it. Lean into it and like accept what it is. Like, it is a tragedy, and it will affect the real world, but then it also affects this made-up world that we've created. That we
made
all love.
it stronger.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely stronger.
I mean,
yeah.
you're trying to tell human stories,
Right.
So you're gonna have it's good and bad and sad and happy. And
I'm really
lean into all of the emotions.
I'm very happy that Marvel did not go the way of Star Wars or Lucasfilm, where
Or
it's,
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious was like, let's use old footage to recreate whatever. Like I was definitely when Shuri enters the astral plane,
The ancestral.
ancestral plane, I was nervous that when she was walking around the throne, that the person sitting on the throne was going to be some weird CGI old footage of Chadwick Boseman. Thankfully, big spoiler, it was Michael B. Jordan. Creed.
Oh, man.
We're sitting there, being
Killmonger.
a jackass.
I was like,
Killmonger.
I love,
Which was a
I
nice
love that
surprise.
I
It was
love
a
that
really
choice,
good,
yeah.
and also that was a big turning point. Like that moment where she sees Killmonger, I was like, Shuri is fucking cool.
What? Yeah, I mean,
Like I was like, I'm Team Shuri at that point because like she's going through so much shit.
She wants revenge, right? And
Yes.
She talks about
Yeah.
that from the very beginning of the movie.
Yep.
She wants to see the world burn. She has anger
Yep.
that her brother is dead. And then that anger gets amplified by 10 when her mother is taken from her as well. And that this person that she was trying to work with and she was trying to negotiate with
Yeah.
attacked and did all of this. So, yeah, it makes complete narrative sense. And, I think even right after the first Black Panther came out, people were like, will Killmonger show up in 2? Is he alive?
I was gonna
Is
ask
he
that.
going to be something, right?
Right.
And I
I'm
was
glad-
always,
yeah.
I was always worried of like, is this going to make sense or is this just going to be fan service, right? Is this going to be Palpatine who was behind it all the whole time because
Dumbest thing ever, by the way.
because reasons, or like is there gonna be a really strong connection here? And
Right.
like, this was the strongest way you could do it. If Shuri was going for revenge, this is the character that represents revenge and rage in every way within the Black Panther. universe.
I love what they've done with Killmonger because obviously you see him in Black Panther. I loved him in
What If?
Vision.
What If?
What If?
Yep.
Thank you. In What If, I was like, oh, this is another nuance. He's you understand why he does what he does. You don't agree with how he does what he does, and that makes him like very compelling. And again, bringing him in here, and I loved it. It was like you're more putting it right there in front of Shuri. You're more Killmonger than you are T'Challa.
Right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yep.
ooh. It's like, hey, cousin.
But here's the thing, though. That's
like,
not
ooh.
a bad
no,
thing.
no. It was great. It was
I mean,
great.
everything is in moderation, right? Like
Yeah, totally.
he Killmonger was a real jackass in terms of bringing
He
up
was an extremist in
yeah,
every way.
but he was also bringing up like everyone in Shuri's family, like their faults and like why they failed
Yes.
and why their actions led her to this point, which sucks,
But it's true.
but it's true.
There's
which-
the elements
yeah.
of truth to it, which makes
Yeah.
it so much more impactful. Like when he was like, T'Challa was noble,
Right.
Right, and I was like,
He was
ooh,
too noble.
goose-
Not just noble.
goosebumps.
He was too noble.
Too
Yeah,
noble, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's like right. I love it when story can pull in like what's supposed to be your greatest strength and then flip it, and that becomes a flaw, at least from a perspective.
For sure.
And I'm like, ooh, it's good.
So here's a big question: Shuri or Batman? Who's better? Both have
Batman?
extreme loss.
Oh, I don't. You can't compare the two.
no,
yeah,
no.
you can't compare the two. Like you have to say Batman because Batman has like 70 years of material,
No, I get that, but I guess what I mean by that is
and also they're just different.
they could have done the cookie cutter superhero goes through something bad and they
I see
could have
what
done
you're saying.
the standard thing of like the make you feel good, but like they decided like we're gonna try and push Shuri like over the edge a little bit. We're gonna
They did.
try and
They
make
did.
her dark. We're gonna make her go to Baku and say, "I'm gonna kill Namor,"
That
and you're gonna
happened.
fucking
But she
exactly,
doesn't- but
which
she
is
doesn't
great.
do it. But she
But she
doesn't
doesn't
go
do
through
it.
it.
She was, but
kinda
up
wish she
until
did.
the point of her not doing it,
kidding.
I didn't know. I did not like. This was like one of the first like superhero movies where I legitimately was like, "Wait, is this gonna end kind of like
yes.
Scarlet Witch where she goes bad?"
Yeah,
I thought
she's
she was
gonna
a little-
be
I was
bad.
I was
Like,
I thought when
nervous too. Yeah.
Namor was extinguished by the fire,
Yeah.
I didn't think he was still alive. I thought
Right.
like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they
They
killed
did it.
Namor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Like going toward the end, I was like, first of all, the cinematography for that last fight with Namor and Shuri was like beautiful. I was like, this is really cool. And also juxtaposing like the fight in the sand with the fight on the ship, like with the water and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love that. But like it was getting like really dark, and like that last third, I was like, my warmer impression is gonna be dark, because I was like, they're really pushing Shuri like in that direction, like where I think Scarlet Witch is a great comparison. Like
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch is very divisive, very controversial, because you have fans of Scarlet Witch and you have people who are like, no, she's irredeemable. And it, say what you will, that's a compelling conversation for a character, right? When you don't know,
Right.
when it's so divided, I'm like,
Right.
honestly, I feel like you've accomplished something when you've done that.
We're at what? We're at like almost 40 years of superhero movies at this point. Starting way back in the 80s with the Batman films, 90s, and weird one-off
totally.
films here and there, and then the early 2000s where everyone was making a movie that was all disconnected, and then we're into the 2010s and the MCU and DC and all that stuff. And it's very refreshing to kind of see, they're taking risks. They're taking these characters that are supposed to be, somewhat idols, if you will, and making them human. They're bringing them down to like humanity's kind of shitty level, which makes them, to your point, like they're more compelling that way. They're more interesting.
They're more interesting, yeah.
You can relate to them more. And I want to tie this into what film director just said this? Somebody came out recently and was like, Quentin Tarantino came out. He's joined the list of directors that are like,
Oh, he said I've never.
comic book movies are not film, they're not whatever. And I would argue, fuck you. Go watch this movie, you dumbass. Like, there's just multiple layers. If you remove all of the superhero elements and it's just a simple, let's say, Western or I don't know, a weird story that happens in
A revenge story.
A revenge story. That's what it is, and like that's good, interesting cinema.
A geopolitical thriller.
Exactly. Like yeah.
Trade Federation.
The Trade Federation. Where are they?
That's all George Lucas wanted to make.
I love it.
George Lucas is the father of comic book
Oh,
movies.
no.
He's
The
not.
father? What? Oh, wow.
He is the father of the comic book movie. No, he's not. He's definitely not even close. Yeah, no.
But yeah, I was nervous in that last third when I was like, they're going to push Shuri all the way. And it's interesting because the movie ends and Wakanda is not in a great place, like politically speaking. Sure. Yeah. And so it's like, even though Shuri, the character, didn't go over the edge, Wakanda, the nation, is in a very interesting place. And then obviously we get that last scene with Namor where he's clearly got bad intentions, it seems like. And, I'm just so curious to see how that's going to play out in future phases. Like, I can't even try and figure out how that plugs in with what we know or think is coming.
Well, here's a question.
Let's hear it.
Val was featured in this movie. We know she will be leading a group called the Thunderbolts in 2024.
The Thunder Farts.
Are the Thunderbolts going to be going up against Wakanda?
Is that, do we know, is the Thunderbolts a show?
It's a movie.
It's gonna be a movie.
Oh, it's going to be a movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Or at least maybe it's going to be like political thriller part 2.
And I think that's where it becomes like, that's where the start of Phase 5 and going forward is going to be interesting. You threw this emotional, not just a simple comic book movie at us.
Not simple at all.
You definitely started a couple of things where it's like, what's Val doing? What's going to happen to Everett
yeah,
Ross?
The MCU.
Ironheart.
What's happening to the MCU? I'll say this right now, and I'll probably eat these words in 2025 when Thunderbolts come out. Like, at this very moment, I couldn't give two fucks what the Thunderbolts are going to be doing.
of course.
Like, it seems very, like, vanilla and, like, cool, whatever, do your thing. And, yeah.
Well, this lends itself, like, when we were talking about, like, Loki and then Captain America and
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, thank you. We were like, it feels like very two distinct parts of the Marvel universe are playing out, right?
The mystic side.
We've got the space and the multiversal stuff. Then we
Right.
have the
American
we
government.
have
Geopolitical
the geopolitical
stuff
aftermath
on
of
Earth.
the blip.
Yeah.
And we're still dealing with that, which is great. Like, something like that shouldn't just be glossed over in a movie.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
I mean,
So-
I think
and it's the same thing
with the introduction of Val in this movie and what you just asked, I think it has to be about Wakanda because literally Martin Freeman's character, Everett Ross, says, what would you imagine if America had vibranium? And
Val was
Val
like-
Larry says, I dream about that. So I think, yes, it's going to probably be... I feel like Thunderbolts is going to be a weird Suicide Squad-esque thing where...
Well, I mean, that's the whole...
That's their whole
point of it.
bit, yeah.
I have a quick question. How adamantium? How does that metal
Adamantium is
work in
man-made
Marvel?
as opposed to vibranium, which is asteroid-made.
So here's my question. So we got another mutant reference, and Val wants a vibranium-like metal in the U.S. And we know X-Men are coming, I think, and so adamantium, right? yeah. So adamantium, do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think all of that stuff's in play. I think the MCU is always
I like that.
is so smart about making the picture wide and large, right? So then it's like
brushstrokes.
there are all these different threads that you can kind of pull on, depending on how some of the movies and shows kind of shape out. And the MCU has always molded it based off of how does every individual piece kind of go, and then also the reaction, right? Because it is a business for them. So we're like, if this movie and this show makes the most,
Right.
we're gonna pull on those threads more than like the ones that don't make the money and that aren't as interested in, right? So
Quick
I
question.
think a lot of that is certainly on the table.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Does Deadpool ever join the Thunderbolts or team up with them in any way?
I don't know in terms of how comic accurate that is, but maybe that's part of Deadpool.
But you have to remember, you can't look at the we are beyond looking at the comics
That's a good
anymore
point.
as a reference to anything.
Yeah.
Like, look at Namor's people. They, in the comics, are referred to as Atlanteans. Here, they're not referred to as Atlanteans.
Which I like. You
Which I think is great.
don't want to, like, it's too close to the DC.
Right.
And I'm not gonna
Well,
lie.
I mean,
I
it's
prefer.
cookie cutter.
I prefer this depiction of the mer people, not mermen, but like the underwater kingdom.
Talukan.
The Talukan, thank you. Well, like this group versus the DC's Atlanteans. Like, I think the depiction of this was so much better.
This is original to the movie in terms of
their origin?
Yeah, this was all not the origin, but
okay.
them in terms of being Mexican Aztec group.
Oh, that's new to the movie?
Well, that's not the comic origin, right? It's more of like
Gotcha.
the traditional Atlanteans type of stuff that you know.
Rooker, on your question about Thunderbolts and Deadpool, in the comics, if we're going by that, the Thunderbolts do kill Deadpool at some point. Yeah. So who knows?
We got some Deadpool and Wolverine team up action. We have the Thunderbolts thing coming out. We have Val who wants some metal in the U.S.
I'm sorry, is she a mountain dwarf?
You need to rework your whole character as Val.
To be Val?
You're trying to put a team together to get the strongest metal in what country are we in here, man? In D&D.
It's like a Val. There we go.
I love it. We think you're just like some like dumb dwarf, and you're actually putting together like this geopolitical.
For those who don't understand what we're talking about, we're referencing
that's
a D&D campaign.
it's a deep cut
We
that we started last
started
night,
yesterday.
Sir, a couple hours ago.
and we're going to continue with our friend from Canada.
Speaking real quick, I think one of the big things post, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, one of the direct implications is obviously going to be the Ironheart Disney Plus series that's coming out. So we have our character Riri Williams. She creates her Ironheart suit. It's very red and Iron Man-esque and
Looked good.
Looked great. CG was good, but it
Was it too good, Rafi?
maybe actually.
Why would you say that?
Because the
what?
queen the Shiri says to Riri, "Hey, you can't leave with this. You have to start from zero because Disney Plus is a TV budget, not a movie budget. So therefore, you can't have an Iron Man suit in a Disney Plus show."
That's hilarious.
So sorry.
So I don't know too much about Ironheart, but
Well,
she's influenced by like Iron Man, right? Like
so in the correct me if I'm wrong. Similar to like Miss Marvel, Miss Marvel is a post MCU creation, if you will.
It might be right around when the
I
MCU
believe it's
launched.
right around the same thing, but
Early 2000s.
Tony Stark actually takes in Riri Williams and kind of passes the Iron Man mantle to her in the comics. But obviously in the comics, Iron Man's alive. In this world, there is no Iron Man. My bigger question is we got a little bit of a performance from Riri, like we saw the character of Riri Williams. We know that she unfortunately has a father who passed away, who was, you know, a big important piece of her life. She lives primarily, obviously, in Cambridge. She goes to MIT.
She also
Boston.
well, she's from Chicago, though.
She's from
She
Chicago,
mentions-
yep.
She mentions being from Chicago. She says to Shuri, hey, are you going to hit me up in Chicago sometime? She's like, not just yet, but maybe in your show.
In your TV show, I will show up in the after credits scene because we shot it when we were shooting this movie.
Maybe.
Wow.
But I guess the question though is like, are you compelled to see Ironheart? Granted, we've seen some promotional pictures here and there. We have no trailer. We have no general premise or anything of that nature. We just have some photos and what we just saw in Black Panther.
For Marvel shows, I don't get excited until I've seen the first episode. Like I'm
Smart.
I'm just like every Marvel show that's come out, I forget about it until it arrives. And so no, I'm not excited, but that's not because of the character. It's just that Marvel shows, I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, it's you just deal with it when it comes, right? You know.
I think of the MCU shows that we've had, the ones that are characters that like appeared in the movies first and then got a series to kind of flesh them out, have been overall better than the ones with brand new characters that you're just meeting for the first time. So like Riri like had a significant role in this movie. You got to know more about her. So I think that will make the show better, more interesting, because you have some stuff to pull from with the movie into this character, right? And there's, you know, again, kind of like M'Baku, like she plays a lot of comic relief in this movie. Right?
Big time.
She has a lot of good quips and stuff, but you also kind of see like this character has a high intellect, right? Is very intelligent, and is like is 19 but like ready to fight and like roll, right? Like she fights with Wakanda at the very end and like is there for the country. So I think it'll be kind of exciting to see that, and I think you have some like hints of where the show could go. They talk about her like higher service for like MIT stuff, and she even references like, oh yeah, I've been using this suit. There's a whole YouTube channel of just like me going around in this suit. So it's not a pure origin story for her, right? Like she's a bit more established than like
a Miss Marvel.
than like a Miss Marvel,
Right.
or even a She-Hulk, or some of these other characters. And I think our producer asked if the show is going to take place before or after. I don't think the details of that have been announced, but I would imagine it's after. I think it'd be
weird to go backwards.
Yeah, because you kind of know, like, especially
know where she's going.
She's in this movie a lot,
Right.
And so it would be weird for you to build up.
This
to
whole
that.
movie's her fault.
Is she a young Avenger?
She can.
She can be, yes.
Yes, she is. The Young Avengers and the Thunderbolts about to face off in the greatest battle Earth has ever
I
seen.
would
That'd
be
be interesting if
surprised.
that's how they did the Young Avengers.
I think we're getting that impression, right?
Christian, that would basically
Find out.
be millennials versus Gen Z.
I know. Wait.
Yeah, right, it would work age-wise.
Yeah, no, I think
It
you're
would-
right.
Yeah, I'm right.
Is
yeah.
Sebastian Stan a millennial? He is, right?
Well, technically, he was born in the 40s, so he's whatever that is.
That's he's the greatest generation. Like
Yes.
he's that.
Yeah.
yeah. He's a no.
Boomers aren't the greatest
the
generation,
children
are
of the children of that generation. Yeah. So he's the father of the boomers.
So real quick, speaking of like things to come, you know, we know that Ironheart is coming at some point in 2023 is the next year after 22. Yeah, that's how math works. What do you guys think is going to happen? You know, let's start with like Black Panther wise. Is there going to be a Black Panther 3, you think? And or do you just rebrand it as something entirely new? And or where do we see any of these characters again going
I can
forward?
go first. This one might be a little safe, but you know, one thing we didn't talk about with Okoye and the new character Nika is they get suits at the end of the thing and they become the Midnight Angels. There's been rumored for a few years that there's a Wakanda Disney Plus show coming. I think that's the Disney Plus show, the Midnight Angels. So I think that might be the next thing we see with the main Wakandan characters, or are those two specifically in like a Disney Plus show. Because Okoye is not part of the Dora Milaje anymore. It doesn't seem like she's going back.
She got fired.
It also seems like Anika is no longer part of the Dora Milaje either. So I think like those two will kind of go off and do their own thing.
That would be kind of fun to like explore more of Wakanda. I would kind of hope that it would be a weird kind of crime drama. not like Law and Order, but I get Law and Order vibes that takes place in Wakanda. That would be really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, let's do that. Do that.
So me and our producer Lerman were joking before the pod, but I'd love to see like Okoye, M'Baku become like the head of like the Wakandan like police force, and it's like it's like cops but Wakanda, like Wakanda cops, and it's M'Baku like just running this division.
Well, real quick, the
That'd be good.
ending of the movie, right? They're having the celebration. Shuri's supposed to come. M'Baku shows up instead and says, "I want to challenge for the throne."
Oh yeah, and then we don't.
Do you guys interpret that as he is now the king of Wakanda?
No, I interpret that more as like standing in essentially for her, or we're not following the traditions that we've been following. We're going to change things up.
Yeah.
Where she is the Black Panther,
But she's not queen.
but she's not necessarily queen, because they even say multiple times the princess is coming, et cetera, et cetera. Granted, that could also just be we haven't in our brains adjusted titles and da-da-da-da.
And then Nakia says near the end of the movie, like, you have a home here in Haiti. And she ends up there. Now, we don't know how long she's going to stay, but she could stay there for a while. She could be like, you know what? I'm going to be the Black Panther. I'm going to help out different parts of the world, be a more global icon instead of just for Wakanda. And then, M'Baku, you lead the people while I'm gone.
That would be really interesting. So like Wakanda is screwed, and right when they need the Black Panther most, she disappeared like the last Airbender.
Not your
Avatar.
strongest.
Avatar, Way of Water, Book of Water.
I think
James Cameron.
I think either way,
And Matt
you know,
Shyamalan.
the family that's been kind of, helping out and running Wakanda is definitely broken, right? There's only one person. There's a secret child, right, that the queen knew about that, never told.
So if you probably didn't catch this when you saw it, but when the queen visits the school, the kid is there. He's the T'Challa. The kid is the one that sees her. She's holding the two hands of other kids, and he's the one in front, leading her to. Nakia.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
I
when
didn't catch
the.
that.
I think that's what Nakia is mentioning of, like, she met him, but she didn't
Right.
necessarily know about him. Because if she did, you'd think there'd be a little bit more bonding than there was in that moment.
That's a little messed up.
But
I'm not gonna lie, that's a little messed up because that's her grandkid.
I got like real hard, like for a moment, like Game of Thrones vibes. Like, oh no, she's gonna have to kill her nephew to keep the throne. But I'm like, she's not even thinking that way. So
No,
obviously
definitely
not.
not.
Obviously
Definitely
not.
not.
But like for a moment, I was like, she was like looking really sad. She was like looking like shocked. And I was like, oh no, there's a challenger to the throne of Wakanda.
But it's very obvious though she doesn't want the throne.
No, she's a scientist.
I'm glad they didn't change her character to, because in the first movie, again, we talked about this, like, she was very much comic relief. She was very much like smart and science
Sassy.
and didn't agree with a lot of the traditions and the ancestral stuff, and she didn't even believe in that stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't be like, I'm gonna embrace
She's science,
this whole
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
They made it kind of work with, like, I took on the mantle for revenge, but I'm not here to lead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lead you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that M'Baku like ends up taking over and ruling for the time being, and I think everything is set up that in maybe 15 years, new T'Challa or
Well, maybe sooner, right? Like,
Could be sooner, yeah.
We know Secret Wars is coming, which is
Right.
going to deal with multiverses. Now, there's no reason to say, like, I'm T'Challa, Black Panther, King T'Challa's son, with a new actor played.
Right.
And again, like, we saw the Ant-Man trailer in front of this movie, and it got me thinking again, like, especially with the Quantum Mania or the Quantum Realm specifically, when they go in and out, there's time differences.
Right.
Like, could we have like another time jump for the MCU? We could.
just because they need like characters to age up real quick.
Potentially.
I mean, it would. How would you feel if?
Paul Rudd as Ant-Man comes out and it's like 2040.
No. Well, what if Phase 5 is in a certain time period, and then all of Phase 6 is another time period? And what I mean by that is Phase 5 is 20 years into the future when Paul Rudd or Ant-Man jumps out.
Sure.
And we are now 20 years in the future and we're dealing with all of that. And then Phase 6 will be, this is what happened in those 20 years. And then we wrap it all up or whatever.
That'd be a little strange.
Confusing as hell.
Yeah.
It'd be a little
That would make me feel
be a
sad.
little Doctor Strange.
That's not. What is that? That's Twilight Zone?
That's Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I don't know why
You know,
calling Twilight Zone.
could work.
Christian,
kinda.
what's your bold prediction for the future?
He already had it.
I think I think
Head of the police force?
no. I think Val, Wolverine, Adamantium. That's how the U.S. That's how she positions the U.S. to become a power that can rival Wakanda. I think them leaving Wakanda isolated and friendless is gonna have major implications, and it's gonna give Val more power. It's like Wakanda's not our ally, and that's gonna give her government backing. The fact that we have Wolverine appearing in the next Deadpool movie, the fact that we have Thunderbolts, the fact that we have Young Avengers all coalescing.
There's been no official Young Avengers, has there?
No, but like
We know.
It's very
We know.
obvious.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
coming with all the young
Yeah.
Avenger characters.
It's an unofficial official announcement that it is
But
coming.
there is one thing we are forgetting, which is actually coming way sooner than all of these, which has a character within Wakanda Forever who will prominently feature. And that is Secret Invasion
Can't
with
wait.
Everett Ross. You know, Everett Ross is in that show. He's one of the lead stars, and where we leave him in this movie is he's on the run from his government. And so
his ex-wife.
and
his ex-wife.
who wants to jump on his Peloton.
That was the dumbest line I think that's ever been written in the history of words.
No, that wasn't the dumbest line.
That is the dumbest line.
Honestly, it was a very Marvel
Is
line.
Peloton even going to be a
Very.
company in 5 years? They just laid off like half their force again.
Every major corporation in the U.S. is like laying off people.
That's
right
very
now,
true.
So.
By the
We
way,
got paid
Krishna,
big bucks
real
for
quick,
that.
Krishna, I hate to do this live on a podcast, but we have layoffs at Was It Good? And, we can't pay your salary anymore. So
Get out of my apartment.
But I think, again, we're talking about the geopolitical nature of the MCU. Secret Invasion is very geopolitical, right? It's about how this whole entire species has invaded Earth and taken over people. And I think we're finally going to see some of that.
wait, do you
play
think
out.
any of the characters that we saw in Black
That's
Panther,
the next
Wakanda
question.
Forever, are not who they say to be? Like, is M'Baku maybe?
No,
Not
not
him.
M'Baku. Not M'Baku. Hey, M'Baku needs to
What
be
about
M'Baku.
Ross? What about Val?
No,
That was a little different
no.
from what we've seen of Val in the other snippets. She seemed a little bit more level-headed.
Val works better if she's human, I think, because Val seems to represent like
Or she's never
some of
been
the worst
human.
parts of humanity.
Right.
So it's like if you make her an alien, it's like, well, now you're scapegoating what she's done into like an alien species. Yeah, I mean, put it this way, we won't put it past Disney to make her Skrull, but I hope they don't, because that would weaken the character. I
They
think.
did.
Yeah, plot twist. They did.
They're all scrolls.
That's a good question though. I would be curious.
I think for my bold prediction, I'm going to go kind of super safe here just because...
no, don't do safe.
Well, it was
So dangerous.
Okay, fine. I don't think we see a movie titled Black Panther until towards the end of Phase 6. So that pushes us probably in like 2025, end of 2025, 2026
I mean,
era.
that would make sense.
Yeah,
No?
compared to like how, because the first one came out in 2018, and now we're 4 years later. So yeah, I don't think we see it for a good amount of time.
I don't think you see any of these sequels like anytime soon.
Yeah.
Right? Because the slate, the production is pretty quick. The only movies that get quick sequels, the Spider-Man movies, because Sony was able to call the shots of when those movies dropped.
Right. Well, also they're in a
think
time
still
crunch
is.
where they have to,
Yeah.
you know, put out X amount of movies.
I mean, they pump those movies out every 2 years.
which is insane.
Well, just real quick, speaking of like Spider-Man, what was the trailer that we saw that had the Eminem song? Because I felt betrayed.
Shazam.
I felt betrayed.
Let's
I
get
thought
down to
Eminem.
business.
I thought Eminem was a Venom artist, and to hear his voice appearing in Shazam, okay, which is a DC thing.
I gotta
Warner
say,
Brothers.
the remix of "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" to the Ant-Man trailer,
Oh, brilliant!
So good.
Amazing.
Well
No,
done.
amazing.
so good.
Before I ask like
Yes.
the big question and we kind of rank these in terms of MCU Phase 4. Is this movie better than the initial trailer that came out for Wakanda Forever? Because a lot of times with the MCU, definitely I would say the first Avengers film, Thor 2 even, like they had really good trailers.
X-Men 3: The Last Stand.
Yeah, great trailers, but then the movies were just big piles of
That
poop.
movie was true dog shit.
But is this movie better than the trailer? Equal? Lesser? What do you think?
This is better than the trailer. This movie's better than the trailer. The trailer's really good, but this is a good movie.
Nice.
I saw the trailer once and I forgot about it.
Oh, wow.
So I cannot
How'd you forget
compare
about the trailer?
because I really didn't want to
It
watch
was like
it.
a weird mix of Bob Marley and Kendrick Lamar, and it's great.
I mean, that sounds awesome, but yeah,
It's really good.
So to be honest, I'm getting into a place where I try to avoid too many trailers and teasers,
That's smart.
unless you guys are like, we need to react to this or you need to watch it because we're doing a pod or something. But so yeah, no comment.
And then my other question that I had, because we were talking about this before, Black Panther, the first one, had an amazing, wonderful, great soundtrack.
Oh, great question.
This soundtrack is also wonderful, great. I was asking Krishna before, like, oh, is this better, worse than whatever? And
It's hard to compare the two because
Right.
this one's so much more somber.
correct.
Like the other one's like
Well, Krishna, tell Arjuna, where do you listen to the first Black Panther mostly?
So
Music.
I have 75% of like the Black Panther soundtrack on my workout playlist.
Because it's a
Okay,
pump
And
up
it's like
list.
it's a different,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a different
And
vibe.
this is a different vibe. This is like when you want to be
Sad.
This is
for,
when you want to be in the bathtub alone, naked, and drinking whiskey.
No.
No? Just me?
Yes.
No, you're right. Like, yeah, the soundtrack was, the music whenever Namor and his people came on, I was like, the music that they played, it was real quick. Shout out to Marvel, but like, the first truly terrifying, I don't know if terrifying is the right word, but true scary scene when you see their heads pop out of the water.
Oh, freaky.
I was like, and they start singing, and then people just throwing themselves off the ship. I was like,
That was horrible.
I was like,
so
oh
real
my
quick, so real
goodness.
We say real quick a lot.
And then we are not.
So here's a little tidbit. Ravi sat next to me in the theater, and everybody went to the bathroom, and there was only Ravi and I there, and he was asking me some questions, and they were mostly silly. But one question Ravi asked me was he saw a horror movie called Smile recently,
Oh, that's right.
and he's like, "Is something
That's
like is Smile in it?" Or it's like
The
it's
Smile
a smile
demon.
creature, and I was
Yeah.
like, "No,
Kind of.
but." In terms of like the people
Yeah.
being possessed and then like
Doing something.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a connection.
Oh man, and I like they didn't overdo it. It was done twice in
Yeah.
the movie,
Yeah.
and that made it so much more effective. And also, like their singing, it was like sirens, exactly like Greek mythology, like just pulling people. It's like all of a sudden they're in a trance, and then just it was so well done.
So speaking of villains, when the first Black Panther came out, everyone talked about Killmonger being one of the best MCU
Villains
villains
ever.
Namor.
Where would you put Namor on the whole MCU rankings, and is he better than Killmonger? Is he a more effective villain?
I mean, my number one villain is obviously Thanos. My number two villain is the one, the Purple Man.
Kilgrave?
Thanos.
Kilgrave.
For David Tennant?
Because Kilgrave just comes from a place of deep sadness, and then he's just so fucked up in the head.
He's a real horrible.
He was
human.
great. He was.
I hate to say it, but I do feel like Killmonger makes more sense as a villain than Namor.
Well, Namor is clearly... Well, he's an anti-hero.
Right.
And-
He's not full Killmonger, Kilgrave. Wow, a lot of kills. Thanos.
But he is a villain.
level.
He's also just infinitely
villain.
more charming than Killmonger.
yeah,
great,
that's why
but-
he's better.
One of my other favorite moments in the movie is when Shuri's like, "I'd like to visit," and he's like, "You could go in that right now," and you would
Crush
you'd
by
be
the pressure.
crushed and quickly, and he's like, "Or you could wear a suit."
We have he's like,
Marvel
we have a
quip.
few.
We have a few.
He was like, we have a few. It's like looking around, like, where are they?
I wonder how they got those suits from. Oh wait, it's from the beginning of the movie.
When they murdered
And
people.
They murdered the people that were in them.
How do you feel about wearing a dead person's?
Namor,
Well, she doesn't know that
I think
they're from
Namor
dead
is
people.
definitely a top 5 MCU.
Yes.
He might be top 3.
I
I don't know
he's
if I
a
can put
top
him.
MCU performance
Yeah.
more than a top MCU villain.
Wow, that makes sense.
Because you don't want to classify him as a villain. Is that why?
I mean, he's certainly a villain in this movie, right? He's certainly
Yes.
he is certainly, I think there was a lot of speculation of like, is he going to be the villain in this movie? Is there going to be like a secret villain where they team up, right? And that was not the case. He was.
I heard a rumor. Somebody thought that Doctor Doom was going to show up.
That was me.
I do think that would have been cool, but I am glad they kind of stuck with him being the guy, right? Instead of him kind of being sidelined for somebody else.
No, I think that's great because, like, if there was another villain, like, let's say somehow Doctor Doom showed up, then the problem is there's not enough screen time for everything that's happening. Like, if you wanted to do that justice, then it has to be a 4-hour movie. And
Or you cut Namor.
you have to have a
or
pee break or
Namor.
3 in the film because
Ryan Coogler's first script was 300 pages.
It's insane.
that's crazy.
Wait, that is a 5-hour movie. If you know, script pages usually 1 minute per page.
Apparently he writes everything down and then
Smart.
He
And then cuts it out. Yeah.
He writes every single idea and thought he has and makes it as long as the longest version. And then
Cut the what
cuts
out?
it from there.
Who wants to go first with the question? Who hasn't done it first in a
I
while?
haven't done it first in a while.
You did it last pod.
Oh, okay.
I haven't done it first.
All right, then you go first.
Ever.
But don't tell us who you're gonna pick.
Tashana. Okay, here we go. Ravi.
Yes, Krishna.
Was Black Panther Wakanda Forever good?
If the pacing of the film had stayed what it was at the first half of the film, I would be saying no. The fact that it changed, the fact that they kind of flipped my expectations with showing Killmonger and going down the vengeance path definitely changed my views on the film. And yes, it was a good film. Will I see this again? 100% I'll see this film again too. Like, it is, everyone has said, this is the best MCU Phase 4 film. They are 1,000% correct.
But will you see it in 4D?
Fuck no, I don't want to get wet.
There is a lot of water.
There's a shit ton of water.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
With the underwater scenes just be
They're just pouring buckets of water on you. Yeah, exactly.
We're out of water. Get some more in there.
That's
Pause the movie.
hilarious.
Wait. It's like the crucial.
The 4D experience would have to be on a water ride. Just a water slide that
What
just
is it?
rotates.
The Waterworld ride at Universal Studios or the
Yes.
experience where they have?
Something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
You have to do it there. Arjuna. Was Wakanda Forever good?
It was good, emotional, and very emotional. Just a very emotional journey. Not a perfect movie, as we've discussed some of the flaws here for sure. But I think it was the one. I think with all of the circumstances around this movie, all of the challenges that it had with losing Chadwick Boseman, with
Production issues.
just doing the movie in itself, right? This was the best version of the movie they made, I think, or as close to it.
as good as it
Yeah.
could have been with all the challenges.
Also adding in the Disney factors too of like you got to drop in this hint and this all that stuff.
I'd be so curious, like the initial script that Ryan Coogler pitched, where he didn't have all of the setups that were needed.
Sure.
Right? Like, I would imagine there was no Ironheart. I would imagine the Val stuff isn't really in there. I would imagine...
I don't know. If it was 300 pages, it might have been the entire rest of the phase 6. Phase
I
5.
feel like if it was just... If they said, Ryan, do what makes sense, and he wrote those 300 pages, I think it's just primarily Wakanda-centric, and the rest of the world doesn't even necessarily happen the way that we saw it.
Letitia Wright had an interview where she talked about she had heard that Coogler had called Chadwick Boseman before he died with the first draft of the script before he turned it into Disney, right? Before we got the studio notes. And he's like, no, I'm going to wait. I don't want to like influence you or the studio before that's done. And then he passed away a few weeks later. But, very sad. And it makes sense that that was near the end of his life. But I thought what was interesting about that was, with the first draft and then the studio notes, and then there's the second draft. And so it does bring up the question of what does the studio add in? What are the things that they're like, or do that, and I'm sure there's part of this too, where the studio's like, we need you to add in X, Y, and Z. Like with Doctor Strange, was there like, you need to add in the Illuminati, right? Like that has to be a part of this movie. You have to make it work.
I would hope a studio like Disney would know you got to give those notes to the director and or writer before they start writing, right?
For sure.
I would hope.
But I think there's also...
It's like you write a script, no? Okay, now put these things in.
But there's also other changes happening in the background that the
Kevin
studio,
Feige.
Well, I mean, there are other things happening. There's other like shifting of productions, and changes in schedules, etc.
Things
Release
that are being
dates, yeah.
released. You know,
Yeah.
like you have to change stuff because
Sometimes like
history changes.
That makes
Doctor
sense.
Strange. Like I think this is the best way to kind of like to explain it. Doctor Strange is very much there's the movie, and then they had the sponsored pieces. So if you ever watch like a YouTube video, hey, shout out to our sponsor, and they have to do a sponsor read, right? It's very much, you know, unnatural, doesn't feel like part of the whole YouTube video, whatever. And Doctor Strange is very much that. While this movie, they did a better job where it felt a little bit more seamless. Integrated better. Like those podcasters that did their ad read with there was the recent one. These podcasts that they do a table podcast outside on the street, and they did like an ad read, and it was very like
very
flawless.
seamless.
Yeah.
It was about the chairs that they were sitting on.
Yes. And they're just like, oh yeah, these chairs by blah blah blah. It didn't feel like a weird ad read, which was cool. Anyway, side note.
Krishna, was Black Panther Wakanda Forever good?
Yes, it was. I think Namor and his people. I thought that was really good. That might be like the best depiction of like an antagonistic force we've seen in Marvel. You know, I think like we've always heard that
Chitauri didn't do it for you in Avengers.
No. We've always heard or said that Marvel has like a villain problem. And, you know, it's like they got a couple lines here, they're the big bad, the motivations are surface level. You know, at least with Namor. Also, shout out to the kid who played young Namor. He was truly dead-eyed. Like he was phenomenal. That kid, like coming onto the beach and like leading his people to bury his mother. I was like, they cast that perfectly. I was like, that kid's terrifying.
Here's a question that you said that's interesting, or it's something you referenced of the MCU having a villain problem.
They did.
Yeah,
They've gotten better. They've gotten better.
You know, with all of the
Compared to where
bad
they were.
press that Phase 4 has taken, right? All the lumps and hits. Would you say Phase 4 has the best lineup of villains across movies?
Wait, who are the villains? Let's go through it.
I guess that answers it.
You have the Shang-Chi's dad.
Oh yeah.
In Shang-Chi. In Eternals, you have
Godhead.
yeah, you have
Arishem.
No, the villain would be
No,
Stark,
the
Stark's
Rob
boy.
Stark.
Rob Stark.
Rob Stark's the villain.
he's
He was great. Yeah.
Spider-Man, you have the Green Goblin.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Okay. Willem Dafoe. Shout out.
Doctor Strange, you have Wanda.
Pretty good villain because it was someone that it was somewhat relatable / learn to hate.
She had a lot of movies to build up
Thor,
to that.
you had Christian Bale as
Jesus.
Gore.
I would say that he was
I
the
think
weakest in Phase 4. of
Gore.
villains. Gore,
No,
yeah.
Ravi. Thor: Love and Thunder would have been a top Marvel movie if he had been given more screen time.
Exactly, but he wasn't.
And more motivation.
So therefore,
No.
he's not a good villain. That's you're playing the what if game. Like, yeah, that
His
doesn't
depiction
work.
was no.
That doesn't work.
He was a
And
great
then
villain.
Namor,
He would have been a better
obviously,
villain with more screen time.
Sure,
that's
but,
how good he was.
But he did it. They didn't give it. They didn't give enough back and substance to him. So therefore, he's not
Yes,
a
they
good
did.
character.
He did more in the 10 minutes of flashback for his villain origin story than any other villain up
The movie
until that
starts
point
with
for
him,
Marvel.
and it's arguably the best part of the movie.
It's the best part of the movie, and
You're
it's
100%
compelling.
right, but that movie's also just Thor. I honestly forgot Thor: Love and Thunder happened.
We're gonna get to. I mean, we. Can
Wait,
still
we're
do
about to do it. Let's do it.
So
Let's do it.
Just
Let's
jump into
rank all of the MCU Phase 4 movies. They are starting in, and this is all in order of release: Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I'll go first.
And start with your best to worst.
Best to worst. All right. I'm gonna go with Spider-Man: No Way Home for my best. I think it's still. I'm still gonna just put it. I'm gonna put it at the top. It was a great experience. Jesus, second. Can I put everything else second and then Black Widow's last? Like honestly, can I do that? Would you?
Yeah,
let me?
it's your ranking.
So yeah,
You're not putting like Black Panther above anything, or like Shang-Chi. Like, there's nothing. Everything else is all the same to you.
blended together. I mean, here's the bigger question.
They
Out of-
all of those movies had things I loved,
Well, here-
and they also had all of those movies had things
let
that
me-
I didn't.
Let
love.
me help you rank them. Let me help you.
Yeah. And then Black Widow's the
Remy-
and then Black Widow's the worst.
Let me explain something.
Easy.
How many of these films have you seen more than once?
I've only seen all of these movies once.
Then that kind of speaks for itself. Then he's right. They're best, the rest,
They're-
and then the
look,
worst.
That's too easy. You gotta, you know.
All right,
But the
fine.
fact,
You gotta
but
assign
Arjun,
some numbers.
but hold on. But the fact that he did not see any of the other ones a second time, even though they're available for free for him to watch or go see again in
A
theater.
second movie watcher guy. Though.
Sure, but then that means though they
Unless it's
didn't.
Top
They
Gun.
didn't rank, that well. That
I've
well.
seen it 3 times. If it's Top Gun or Interstellar, I've seen Interstellar like 15 times. Yeah.
Think about where
It's like-
Krishna
I
lives.
watch it like 4
it
times
makes
a year.
sense.
You know, if you love movies where like people are being put to their physical limits in aeronautical.
Yeah, it's called compelling drama. I like that in my movies.
Yeah.
There's a movie coming out with Jonathan Majors called Devotion, which is another flying movie.
Oh yeah, no, oh god,
I'm very excited
And
to see
Glenn
that. I wanna
Powell's
see
in
that.
it. I was like, oh, it's Top Gun too. I'm like, no, this is very different than that.
It's the prequel
very
to Top
yeah,
Gun.
it's the prequel.
It's got a lot of racism in
And
it.
it's
I-
based off real events.
I will say this then. I think I'll put Spider-Man. Can I do tiers?
Sure.
So like Spider-Man No Way Home is like tier 1. Tier 2, I think I would put.
I feel bad for our producer writing all of this out.
You don't need to
Okay.
write this out.
Summarizing.
I think I would.
Rewatch it.
I think like tier 2 would be like. I think I would do Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Eternals. Tier 3, I would do Shang-Chi. Tier 4, Multiverse of Madness. I guess I am just ranking these now.
Yeah, that's
and
ranking,
then,
buddy.
I think I'd do Thor: Love and Thunder, and then Black Widow.
I think are we all universally saying that Black Widow is the worst one?
Unquestionable.
No, I have a different worst, but I have.
Well, there's a
reasons.
reason. There's a scientific
There's
reason.
science behind.
You have a physical symptom.
Science. It's
Well, can I ask? Has anyone seen Black Widow more than once?
I have.
No,
That's not
and I
twice.
never will.
Okay. Arjuna, let's hear your ranking then.
Okay.
We'll save the best for last.
Who's that?
Me.
Thor: Love and Thunder. That's the best for last.
Okay, I would say for me, number 1, Black Panther. Number 2, Spider-Man. Number 3, Shang-Chi.
Oh, okay. What are you going for 4 then?
Yeah, we're going for 4 here.
You've got
Now it gets difficult.
you got Doctor Strange, Eternals. Well, you can't say Eternals. That's the last. Black Widow, and then Thor: Love and Thunder. So just do a tier 3. That they're all lumped together.
No.
Like I said, so Phase 4. Why not? Phase 4 is like a big lumpy mess,
It really is a big lumpy mess.
which is not bad. It's entertaining. Phase 4 was so entertaining.
I feel like also
absolutely.
Phase 4,
Like I said, there are things in every movie that I loved.
I also feel like Phase 4 as a whole was not for the hardcore YouTuber Marvel fan, right? Because you had things coming out like Miss Marvel, which was not Miss Marvel is not for like you and I. At the end of the day, it was not made.
We loved it though.
We loved it, which is great, but we are not the target audience, and that's okay.
I think
and there's
we
a
are.
lot of
We're
Marvel
aging out of
content.
the target audience.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm fine with that. We need to see growth. We need to see different things. We also need to ourselves find things that are not the
Marvel?
same thing. Yeah. No, I'm not saying we don't need to find Marvel. It's just Phase 4 is the most accessible, I think.
Is it time for
To a
us to
variety of
graduate
people.
into DC?
Yeah, we're old enough now for DC stuff.
I would say for me, 4 would be Thor: Love and Thunder.
Right.
Would be Thor, yes.
Would be 4.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gotcha.
I think that Thor
Then
would be Thor.
I'll go Black Widow,
Okay.
Doctor Strange,
Whoa.
and then Eternal.
Okay.
Wow, that is a
Okay.
list.
How are you putting Black Widow about well, no. Wait, what did you put under it?
Doctor Strange and Eternals.
Oh, interesting.
Well, okay, so again, we've brought this up multiple times. Arjuna, I mean, it makes sense that Eternals will be the worst one for Arjuna's because the movie
have an
killed him
excuse.
almost twice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Twice. Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
So I would be going against myself if I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Actually,
yeah.
you'll get a migraine right now if you put it any higher than last.
We should totally watch it and see if it happens
If I
again.
take the migraine out, it probably wouldn't be last.
That's fair.
But it
think
cost
I
you
put it-
physical harm.
It did.
Yeah.
That did.
No, that's fair, and I'm glad you have the
I probably put it in the
awareness
middle.
to say
I'd
that.
honestly probably put it in the middle.
I respect you for that.
Yeah, I respect that. Yeah. So mine, so I'll preface this. I have not seen The only movie that I've seen more than once was Spider-Man No Way Home. I saw it twice.
Oh, I did see that twice.
Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I'm definitely going to see a second time. Obviously, like, you know, we're out here. Lauren's not here and she didn't see it with us, just like Sahara didn't see it with us. Usually when I see a movie myself and Lauren doesn't see it, we just won't see the film because she's not big into movies or whatever. I will definitely make her go see this because I think Black Panther is just that good, and it gives you such a great emotional ride or whatever. And because of that, obviously Black Panther is number one. Spider-Man No Way Home, again, another emotional gut punch. It made me sit there and think, and I hate that.
Feel stuff.
Thinking and feeling is stupid.
And that's why they're your top.
That's
ones.
why they're my top two
I hate
films.
it. And that's why I love
I hate it. Fucking hate it. And then I think Shang-Chi definitely third because it was even though it was like on the surface it was a typical action Marvel movie, it was different enough. It explored something that I'm not familiar with, which was nice. It was a nice kind of, and also, the villain being his father and everything was something different.
He was really good.
And he was really, really good. So that makes it third. And then kind of after that, movies happened. Things happened.
We got an interesting question here again from Low Life. Quick question, all of you. Name what you would consider a perfect movie. Does not have to be your favorite movie, but what would you consider a perfect?
Signs.
Interstellar.
Nothing.
Wait, so we got some Nolan stuff in here, and then an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Shyamalan and Ding Dong.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah.
And I only say
another
Signs
movie
is
too.
perfect because I had to explore it so many times for various film classes and really break down why does the script work? Why does the cinematography
Signs?
work? Yeah, because I picked it because it was like my main
I got you.
thesis, if you will, because it does work on so many levels.
I'll add one more movie to that. It's another Ryan Coogler movie, Creed.
Yeah.
Creed to me is what again. It's not. I don't. It is one of my favorites, but I just think it's also like a very perfect movie.
Right.
That I just enjoy immensely.
I mean, I love Creed.
God. Our producer says something really dumb.
Producer said Tenant.
He said Tenant.
It's controversial.
Not Tenant. It's not Tenant.
It's Tenet.
Tenet.
That's what I said.
Someone said Tenant.
I said Tenant.
David Tennant.
David Tennant, the movie.
It's Tenet.
That's a perfect movie.
I would watch a movie about David Tennant being a tenant.
Did you guys ever
in an
see
apartment.
being John Malkovich?
Yes.
It's the strangest movie I've ever seen.
Dumb.
I hate it too.
I hate it.
because I didn't get it, and it was like trying too hard.
I had never been high when I saw that movie, but having
You were high?
No, but now having been high before, that is the closest experience of not ingesting drugs of getting to highness.
I got
Watching
you.
You've never been high?
No,
No,
but when I saw that movie, I had never been
I was
high.
gonna say I've seen you high.
And now I have been high. That movie stimulates being high.
Yeah,
Pretty well.
Arjuna says
Makes sense.
Watching that movie is like being high without
Also a
having
Scanner
to
Dark
ingest
movie.
drugs.
Oh, fuck that movie. That movie was stupid.
But it made me feel weird.
Because your eyes were cross-eyed
eyes
by the
hurt.
end. You're like,
Yeah,
"Ah!"
I'm surprised that movie didn't give you a migraine.
It would today.
Agreed.
For reals.
Also, Eternals.
Matrix might be a perfect movie.
The first one.
Yeah,
The first Matrix?
Matrix might
Yeah.
be a perfect
First
movie.
Matrix is-
Yeah.
Oh my god, the fourth Matrix movie might be the most imperfect
Guys,
movie I've ever seen.
Batman vs Superman. Perfect movie.
For me to poop on.
And on that note, I'm going to close the damn podcast out because whenever one of us says something insane, we know that's the end.
Time for us to
really.
go.
And with that, that's going to do it for us here on Was It Good. Thank you for, tuning in, listening. As always, you can find our podcast in full on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wasitgood. Follow us on Twitter at wasitgood. We're verified because we're idiots and we paid Elon. Actually, no, I paid Elon. I'm getting sidetracked here. Also, follow us on TikTok and Instagram at wasitgoodpod. Our next pod will be next week. No idea what it is because somebody didn't put it in here.
Well, we haven't decided. It's going to potentially be a
What's the
movie.
mystery?
It could be Devotion. It could be Barbarian. It could be that BJ Novak movie
Vengeance.
you're obsessed with.
Vengeance.
Yeah, but you have to tune in to find out.
You got to tune in and find out.
You got to tune in to find out.
And finally, also check our website out, wasitgood.info. Beyond that, goodbye.